what's going on? So today I'm going over my January wrap up and my February TBR with you. I'm quite pleased with the amount of books that I finished in January. I got 4 done, and that actually is like right on point. That was my goal for the month of January. I knew I was gonna have like a crazy busy month. I was just like doing all sorts of things. I had a dance workshop that my dance crew put on. I was in a play, and we had the show week was at the end of January. Mitch's album release show was the last week of January, and it was awesome. You guys should actually check out his band. They're called Laska. I will put the iTunes link down below to check out his album. It's actually like super wonderful. Like I've been listening to it like nonstop. Go check them out. I just had like a crazy January. It was just like nuts. I had so much to do. So I am so happy with the 4 books that I completed, and I'm excited to go over them real quickly with you. And then after I go over those with you, I'm going to go over my February TBR with you, and that's going to be really good as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here's a little riddle for you guys. What book am I reading if the husband and wife are 8 years in age apart, but when they met, the wife was 3 years old and the husband was in his mid-20s? If you answered The Time Traveler's Wife, you are correct. That was the first book that I completed this month, The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger, and I unfortunately could only give this one a 2 out of 5 at the very most. I was not impressed with this book at all. This definitely isn't a book that will ever be anywhere near my favorites list, and that is for a couple of reasons. The first being, I really didn't like the characters at all. My second reasoning for not liking this book is it's really creepy. Every time he time travels, he loses all his clothes and everything, and so he appears naked. So when it happens in front of this like 3-year-old girl that he's eventually going to marry, it's just kind of an unsettling concept for me. And there were a couple of times when it just seemed like their romance was a little bit like premature, age-wise. I feel like it was something that was maybe supposed to be kind of purposefully pushing boundaries or pushing these lines to try and form this boundary pushing story, but that's all I saw about the book. It took away from what could maybe have been a good story, and it was just all about boundary pushing, which leads me to my third reason for hating the book, and that would be it was just unnecessarily vulgar. I found that the way she was writing the sex scenes was not romantic like it was supposed to come across, but just straight up sexual. And for me, there is a difference. When I'm reading a book, there is a difference between a sex scene that's coming across as romantic and loving and something natural. This was just coming across as just straight up like dirty sex. And so that took away from the whole basis of the book for me, because these two people are supposed to be just in love with each other, meant for each other, destined to be together, and I just wasn't getting that from this vulgarity that Audrey Niffenegger felt it was necessary to put in this book. The second book that I completed in the month of January was Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell, and I was very pumped about this one because it was my first Rainbow Rowell read. I was very excited, and because I had heard so many good things both about the author and this book in particular, so I was very excited to dive into this. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, I think. I didn't hate it, but I didn't absolutely fall in love with it. It just didn't draw me in as much as I really wanted it to. Maybe it was all the hype surrounding it, and I just like was let down a little bit. If you want more of my thoughts on this book, I did actually do a formal review. You can find the link, click here, and you can watch me rant about it for like 10 or so minutes. Like I shared all of my thoughts in detail about it. You can go there. I won't bore you with the details a second time. My concluding thought on it would be that I really want to try reading a Rainbow Rowell adult contemporary novel. I think maybe that would be more up my alley, so I'm definitely going to give some of her other things a try. The third book that I completed was actually one that a friend recommended to me. That was Midnight Over Sancta Fracks by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddell. I went into it knowing that it was more of a first chapter book, kind of first reader sort of book, so I wasn't expecting it to have like amazing writing or plot twists or anything like that. There were some concepts in this novel that I would almost like to see transferred to an adult novel. Like that concept really intrigues me, having the weather affect emotions. Like you could do a whole lot with that sort of thing. But overall, this book was like, it was like a cute, fun adventure, and it was almost like a nice break for me reading this book, because I really didn't have to think while I was reading it. I just sort of like was able to turn off my brain, follow the adventure, get involved with it, and in the end I actually sort of like really got into it, and so it was a good read. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 for the in context of what sort of book it is and the age range that it's for. The final book that I completed in January was probably my favorite read of the month. Actually, not even probably, for sure, because the other reads were sort of meh for me. It was Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash, and I was so excited to get to this read because I've heard nothing but great things about this book. I've heard that it's just like epic and awesome and just like wonderful all around, and I was really drawn to the sort of dark imagery of the title. I just thought it sounded really good, and I was completely right. I expected wonderful things from this book, and I got wonderful things out of it. And so, considering the other 3 reads of the month were sort of like around the 2 to 3 star mark, I was really happy with this read, and I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. At one point, it was really funny because last month I read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and there were some similarities in this book. The twist that was in Red Queen, I was like, if this twist is in Snow Like Ashes, I will just like stop reading forever. I'm done. But it didn't turn out that way, so I'm like super happy, and it turned out that Snow Like Ashes was really its own novel, had nothing like Red Queen and Snow Like Ashes, completely different plot lines. I was very happy with the outcome, and I actually ended up liking Snow Like Ashes better than Red Queen. I really liked this novel. Okay, and so now I'm just gonna quickly go over my February TBR with you. It's pretty straightforward. I have 5 books on the list. I have big plans for the month of March, and I'm excited to share those with you eventually, but for now I'm just gonna tell you that I don't want any carryovers, so I want to make a doable list of books that I'm going to read. So let's get into that. So the first book that I'm planning on completing in February is Wicked by Gregory Maguire, and this is the book that we are reading on my Broken Book Club on Goodreads. I'm only about 40 pages in. I didn't get to start until the end of January, but so far I'm actually really liking it. I had no idea what to expect, like even stylistic wise. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I am pleasantly surprised so far. And I'm really excited to hear you guys' thoughts for those of you that are joining us on the read. If you haven't joined us yet, you still have time. I'll put my Goodreads link below for you. If you want to join the book club, you've still got time. We're going to have a live show at the end of February on the 28th at 3 o'clock CST. The next book that I'm planning on reading in February is Graceling by Kristen Cashore. I'm reading it with my friend Kirsty. You may know her from our Broken Book Club page. She's read the last 2 books with me, and we've decided to read this one on our own and do a live review of it, so I will keep you updated on when that live review is. This book is about a girl named Katsa. In this world, certain people are graced with certain skills, so certain powers, I guess, and this Katsa, she is graced with the power to kill people with her bare hands. She's a niece of the king, so but instead of living the life of privilege that she really was born into, she is forced to be the king's thug. But one day, she meets somebody who's graced with combat skills, and her life just changes, I guess, and she's plunged into a story full of secrets and adventure, and this book overall just sounds really good and really intriguing. I've seen them on a lot of favorite fantasy novel lists, so I'm definitely excited to finally knock this one off of my TBR. The third book I'm planning on completing in the month of January is my Kindle read, The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I haven't been reading this one very quickly. I think I'm about maybe a third of the way through, and it's just starting to pick up for me. There were a lot of dry moments so far in the book, so I've sort of been like sort of putzing through it a little bit. It is a really good read. It just has some dry spells for me. My first audio book that I'm planning on completing this month that I'm already sort of in the middle of is A Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. And I'm actually really enjoying this book so far. This is about a girl who is like born a princess. She's born as the heir to her parents' throne, and she is in an arranged marriage. I feel like I've been reading a whole array of arranged marriage books lately, but here's another one. She's set up to be married to a prince that she's never met, and she decides that she is having none of that, and she runs away. Little does she know that the prince, both the prince and an assassin that's been hired to kill her, are tracking her and follow her to this town. And from my understanding, it sounds like it's going in the direction of her sort of having like little like love interests in both of these men. That sounds like really, really interesting, and I've heard a few good things about this book. I haven't seen it everywhere on BookTube, but the reviews that I have heard have been really, really solid. The next book that I'm planning on completing on audiobook this month is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. And this book is about a girl who never was into confronting her crushes about her feelings, so instead she would write them a letter and then seal it and put it in a shoebox under her bed and leave it at that. A few years later or whatever, she discovers that somehow all of these letters got sent out to all of her previous crushes from previous years, and so they start sort of confronting her about these letters and being brought back into her life, and that just sounds like a mess, a disaster to me. I cannot imagine the emotional wreck that this book is going to be. So this should be really, really interesting, and I'm excited to dive into this book. And I have one more book on my TBR for February. I'm not including this one on, this is the only one that I'm willing to cross over into March with because it's my read with Mitch, my boyfriend, and that is The Revenant by Michael Punke. We picked this book out like a couple months ago, and then it was sort of like, hey, isn't that the book that we decided to read? It's being made into a movie, what? And we went and saw the movie actually, and it was amazing. And so we're really excited to get deeper into this book. This novel is about a man who is part of like a fur trading expedition back in the 1800s, and he gets mauled by a bear. Like, it's so dramatic, and so his crew ends up leaving him for dead. So this entire novel is basically about his struggle to survive. It's a really interesting novel so far. I'm into the writing, I'm into the story, so hopefully we enjoy it just as much as we enjoyed the movie. And of course, I just love reading books with Mitch. It's always a wonderful time. With that, I think I am done my January wrap-up and February TBR. So if you guys have any thoughts about the books that I have read or am reading, throw me a comment down below, give me a shout out on Twitter. I'll get all my information below for you. As always, I am completely open to discussion about these books. I hope you guys are having a solid day. I hope your January was just awesome, and I hope your February will be just as awesome as I think mine will be. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!